They would let the ice cream truck drivers for Bluebell to eat all the ice cream they wanted until they basically got sick, and then they didn't want the ice cream anymore. God gives us stuff sometimes to allow us to become sick of what we want instead of satiating after what we need. In this sermon today, there are 2 donkeys, 2 kings, 2 destinies. Let's learn more about the one you don't know. I just read an Ancestry.com explanation of the biblical story of Saul, the son of Kish. 7 generations of this mighty man of this little tribe of Benjamin, the favorite tribe, the smallest tribe, the beloved tribe of Benjamin. And Kish evidently was the best known of all of those tribes. The description in Hebrews suggests that he was a mighty man, a warrior, a man of strength, a man of substance. And in this text, you find here in this spiritual ancestry.com 7 generations of the Kish family leading all the way to the family of the young man named Saul. I suppose if they lived in a great manor house, there were oil paintings of some of the great members of the Kish family. Now, I don't know any of the Rockefellers. Wish I did. But there's John D. Rockefeller VI, who's alive today. I think the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th are still alive today of the John D. Rockefeller lineage. The 6th would be the great-great-great-grandson of John D. Rockefeller, who was the wealthiest man in the world up until his time. I know this about the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. They have on their shoulders the weight of a legacy. And I wonder if young Saul didn't feel that way, all those glorious ancestors before him. Surely with that kind of patrimony, he had something great ahead of him. But he not only had those kinds of ancestors, he also had his own endowments. Did you hear that explanation of Saul? He was the tallest man in Israel. Saul was tall. And Israel was a country then of relatively short people. He was also the most handsome person. Can anybody in here relate to that? A couple guys nodding their heads, a couple wives shaking their heads. They'd had a reality show of Finding Mr. Israel back then. Saul would have won it. He's kind of like the Denzel or the Brad Pitt of his generation. And that dated me right there, what I just said. He was the epitome of handsomeness for his day. Saul had all of these endowments and entitlements, and if you didn't know his story, you would expect that he was going to be sent to do something tremendous, something huge, something big for God, like maybe become a decathlete, or like LeBron at 20 years and 20 days old, the first triple-double in all the NBA. And you got to think he was probably destined for something big physically. He's going to conquer the world. And you're not really ready for what you read in the text. With all of this entitlement, with all of this endowment, he has to chase runaway donkeys. That's like a preface without a book, like an overture without an opera. That's like you walk up to a mansion, you get into the entranceway, and then right there you see an outhouse. It's just a disappointment. With all of this ability, he is sent on a donkey chase. And not only that, a chase needs to be of value in terms of what you're chasing. He's sent on a nationwide donkey chase. Up hills, down valleys, day after day, chasing these runaway funny animals. And add to all of that, it's an unsuccessful donkey chase. He's not even able to find the runaway donkeys. Now, if you're in business, I know there are a lot of business persons in here in a crowd this size, you're familiar with the term lost opportunity cost. You got to think about the lost opportunity cost that was extant within the situation of Saul and the donkey chase. That means if you're doing one thing, you're not doing something else. So here's this young man, he has all of his ability, endowment, entitlement, losing the opportunity to do something else. And then he gets to a place called Zuph. Zuph. Now, we don't know where Zuph is today in Israel, but we do know this. When you get to Zuph, it's tough. When you get to Zuph, you've had enough. And that's what happened to Saul. He says, we've been chasing runaway donkeys for days. Dad's going to get worried about us. Let's go back. Must have been a dejecting thing. In fact, if you read the text thoroughly, he and his friends were actually broke. They had what would equate to about $1.85 in today's currency. They'd been chasing donkeys and they were unsuccessful. They were broke. They lost opportunity. I wonder if there's anyone here or beyond here listening to this message today, and you had dreams that you were going to soar like an eagle, but instead you're surrounded by turkeys. You wanted to be on the main line, but instead you're on a detour to the sideline. You thought you had a destiny, but really your life is on a detour. It could have been anything, but I want you to understand a word from this today. God can take you on detours to help you fulfill your destiny. And at the same time, Saul is chasing runaway donkeys, and Samuel, the spiritual leader of the nation, Samuel, that rich person speaking to the prophets, Samuel, a name that was on every lip in Israel. In verse 15, literally, the Hebrew says, God dug through his ear and told him something he didn't want to hear. So you see, something about Samuel is that he was the leader of the anti-king party. He said, God and God alone wants to be your king. But finally, the people wore God out. And can I just say something parenthetically for a moment, please? You can sometimes wear God out, and he'll say, okay, I'm going to just let you have what you think you want, only to find out it's not what you really need. Hear me out. He does that sometimes, doesn't he? Like in the other centuries, they used to let little boys who would work in candy shops, they would let the boys eat all of the candy, as much as they could eat in the first day of work, till they got sick, and then they didn't crave the candy anymore. Or, even better yet, as a boy, I used to dream of being a Bluebell ice cream truck driver. And they would run these commercials from Brenham, Texas. Cookie dough is the best, by the way. Some of y'all just disagreed with me, and it's okay to be wrong. It's all right. But they would let the ice cream truck drivers for Bluebell, at least in the 90s, they allowed this, to eat all the ice cream they wanted until they basically got sick, and then they didn't want the ice cream anymore. So those are true things that have happened. And I just think God gives us stuff sometimes to allow us to become sick of what we want instead of satiating after what we need. So you've got the head of the anti-king party, Samuel, and God dug through his ear and said, tomorrow you're going to meet a young man chasing runaway donkeys, and I want you to anoint him as king, Saul. Saul thought he was on a donkey detour, but unknown to him, he was going to be anointed king. Hear me. Sometimes when you think that you're just out there chasing donkeys, you're really on your way to your destiny. You are. And I want to encourage somebody here today. You think you're on an endless detour to nowhere, and I just want to say to you, oh no. And how does that happen? Well, help comes from unexpected people sometimes. Sometimes people who are important in Scripture don't even get a name, do they? Have you noticed that? This servant who was with him, with Saul, didn't even get a name. He was incognito, anonymous, and yet Saul's destiny turned on him. And Saul said, listen, Daddy's going to be more worried about us than the donkey. Let's go home. But this nameless, incognito man said, no, listen, I've heard there's a man of God in these parts. Let's see what he knows about runaway donkeys. And here's where I wish I could just sit down with you in your kitchen over a cup of coffee and talk about this text, just individually. Where I could share with you from my own life what God has done with people unknown to me who showed up and changed my life just at the right time.